This is the unofficial start to a series of videos I plan on creating for players who are new to Gwent. The goal is to cover core concepts of the game so that new players, or at least those interested in trying out the game, know what to expect. This video will cover the absolute basics of how to play the game, but future videos will cover things like card advantage, play advantage, tempo, things like that. A game of Gwent is played as a best of 3 rounds, which means that you have to win 2 rounds in order to win the game. The order in which you win the rounds does not matter as long as you win at least 2. To win a round, you must have more total strength on the board than your opponent when the round ends. Before we talk about how the rounds play out, I want to talk a little bit about the game board. In Gwent, the game is split into 2 sides. One side is yours and the other side is your opponent's. These sides are further split into 3 rows. There is a melee row, a ranged row, and a siege row. When you play a card that has an icon, it has to be played into the corresponding row. Some cards have the option to be played into any row. Spy cards are cards that are played into the opposing row that matches their icon. So that means that they would count on your opponent's side of the board. So now that we've kind of covered the board layout, let's take a look at how the rounds play out. When the game begins, each player is shown the faction and the leader card for both players. Then each player draws 10 cards. Players are then allowed to redraw up to 3 cards. This is often referred to as mulliganing or taking a mulligan. Decisions are made one at a time, and a player does not have to fully redraw 3 cards. If they like their hand at any point during the redraw, they can choose to just take that hand and not continue to redraw. Once both players have finished picking their opening 10 cards, those cards make up their opening hand, and a coin is flipped to determine who goes first. Players choose and play 1 card each turn. There is no resource system like mana or magicka or anything else that you might have been accustomed to in other card games. Any card can be played, including the leader card. Once the card and its effects have been resolved, the turn is over. If a player chooses to not play a card, they can instead choose to pass. Passing means that that player will play no more cards for that round. The other player may choose to continue playing as many cards as they would like until they also pass. If a player at any point has no cards left, they are forced to pass the next time that they would have to play a card. Choosing when to pass is an important part of the game, and making good choices is key to winning since you have to win 2 out of the 3 rounds. So, in those rounds, choosing when to pass is very, very important. After round 1 is finished, both players draw 2 more cards before beginning round 2. If the game does go to a round 3, players both draw 1 more card before beginning that round. In both rounds 2 and 3, the player who won the previous round must play first. Keep in mind this is an obvious oversimplification of the game. These are just the core rules, and the cards inject a fair amount of depth that makes this game quite challenging. The last thing I want to cover are the basics of deck construction. When creating a deck, you first start by selecting a faction. The game currently has 5 factions available, and each faction has a special ability. As you can see, each faction ability is unique, and some of them really give their faction their own identity. Once you have selected your faction, you must then choose a leader card. A leader card is a card that both players get to see, and it's always available right at the start of the game. Each player may use their leader once per game, just like any other card. After choosing your leader, you must now choose cards to fill up the rest of your deck. Your deck must be at least 25 cards, and your deck can contain only cards from your faction and neutral cards. Perhaps the most interesting part about deck construction are the different levels of cards that you are allowed to use. In Gwent, there are bronze cards, silver cards, and gold cards. Players are allowed to use up to 4 gold cards in their deck and up to 6 silver cards in their deck. These limitations match the general power level of the cards, meaning that silver cards are, as a general rule, more powerful than bronze cards, and gold cards are generally more powerful than silver cards. Because of these limitations and varying power levels, it's usually best practice to make sure that you use all of your gold slots and all of your silver slots while maintaining the bare minimum in deck size. Doing so will increase your consistency and let you draw your more powerful cards more often. And that's it. That's the basics of deck construction and how to play. So, if you're new to the game, or maybe you were watching this video because you were thinking about trying it out, hopefully this covered enough of the basics so that you can at least get started and get you pointed in the right direction. The game is significantly more complicated than this video likely makes it seem, so if you were watching this and you were thinking, you know, gee, I think this might be too simple, I might get bored with this, I would say, you know, don't worry. The game is deep. CD Projekt Red has done a wonderful job of bringing this, you know, minigame from the Witcher series to life. It is a fully fledged card game, and it brings everything to the table that you would expect from an online card game. So it is not overly simple at all. That being said, this is the first in a series of videos that I'm making that are geared towards new players. The community is growing every day, and I expect it's only going to get bigger when open beta begins, and that seems to be right around the corner. So keep an eye out for the other videos, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. As always, thanks for watching.